Good, mate. Good.
Good.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Scottish Silverback Podcast. And this week we're joined by Aaron Hudson, one of the UK's top super heavyweights, and it's good to get another. I think that's 3 big boys we've had on now. So also we just get the chat going, and as always, like we're trying to make this as kind of just flowing chat and just kind of back and forth as much as possible. So as always, we'll just get started with Aaron. How are you getting
on? Better, not great, but better, given everything I've had to deal with since December.
Yeah.
But yeah, doing all right, thank you. Yeah.
You just want to give us like a little introduction about yourself, who you are, what you do, probably your most recent story you'd probably like to tell everybody.
Yeah, obviously I've been competing for 10 years, would have been 10 years this year. I've done every single year on the bounce. Just compete. I get involved with as much stuff as possible. I'm a software developer. I'm a dad. I've dabbled with politics, and I still sort of get involved here and there. I've done wrestling. I've done a bit of acting. I've been on TV. I've just done bits and bobs of everything. Obviously, the last 12 months, people may or may not know, I had an incident which ended up with me rupturing both patellar tendons and also my tricep. The medial head of my triceps. That's been hell, to say the least. And I'm just bouncing back from that, really.
Yeah. See, I didn't know about the tricep. I thought it was just the quads. When you posted it, I saw kind of what had happened in that, and it was it's pretty graphic, like. But I didn't realize you'd done the tricep as well. I was like, fuck, that's just everything comes in threes, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, initially, as I say, it happened, and obviously I knew my legs had gone because I couldn't stand up. That was a bit of a clear sign. Even when I was in hospital, they kind of rushed me through A&E. I got to A&E, and I needed a piss. And I said to one of the nurses, I said, "Is there anyone can go to the toilet? Can I grab some crutches or something?"
Mm-hmm.
I got some crutches. No, I've never used crutches in my life. So I stood on these crutches and I just went, just hit the deck. And I think it's 8 or 9 doctors or whatever to pick me back up and put me back on the bed. And it was just... My tricep, I didn't realise I'd done it straight away. The way I found it...
What is it, the point?
Yeah, well, it was all bruised, and they scanned it over with the X-ray. They did an X-ray, and they scanned it over with like the ultrasound thing. You know, when your missus is pregnant, and they got, well, great, you'll know, they go with the ultrasound. And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. You know, NHS, they just want to get you in and get you fucked off out." And it was only a few weeks later that the bruising was still there, and I couldn't extend, and it didn't look right. And I spoke to my friend Yestin, who's a physio, and he's also my physio, and he was like, "Yeah, that's not right. You need to get that checked out." So I've got medical insurance. Anybody who knows me knows I preach about medical insurance. I had an appointment at like 1:30 in the morning via video link with a GP surgeon type thing, and they got me in straight away, and they got me operated on within, I think it was. But yeah, I ruptured the head of my tricep. It's the same. I think it's the same thing that Seth Feroce recently did. I say recently, it was like 12 months ago. Yeah, that was horrible, man. That surgery was worse than the ones on my patellar tendons. The pain was rough, man. I mean, I kind of, at the time as well, I think it had been 3 or 4 weeks since I had my patellas reattached. And went to, a friend of mine at the gym did his tricep last year training, and he was there with like an arm brace on, and his arm was like locked. And I was there thinking, "Oh fuck, I'm going to be in knee braces on my legs. I'm going to have my arm in a brace. I'm going to be like walking around like a fucking scarecrow." And I'd sort of practiced the week before trying to get around and do stuff with just one arm. Like I was down from 4 limbs down to 1. Got into the hospital, the private hospital in Birmingham. And I said, "Oh, how long am I going to be in a brace for?" And he looked at me and said, "A brace?" I went, "Well, yeah, you have to put me in a brace, aren't you?" He said, "No, we'll just put a bandage on." So, it wasn't much fun. It's been an easier recovery than my legs, obviously, because I've had to kind of learn to walk again.
Yeah.
It's been rough, man. It's been really, really rough. It's the hardest physically and mentally thing I've ever been through and I've ever had to deal with. But I think we're on the up now. And as I say, I'm back in the gym. I am back training to some degree. Not like we normally do. I mean, but it's on the up, and I'm on the up, and I'm on the, and a lot's changed, man. My priorities have changed. It turned not just my life upside down, but also my wife, my kids, family, and everybody around me. But it's been a good learning experience, because I've learned to sort of you very quickly learn when you're on the down and you're no longer riding that wave of. I mean, it was like last year, Greg. I mean, it was insanely intensive. That British was fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
And you quickly realise when you're not sort of on the up and you're not on the rise and you're not sort of like getting ready for something, there's not like a lot of hype around you. You quickly learn who your friends are and who your friends aren't. And it's been nice in that sense. My sort of circles shrunk, and it's for the better in a way. But as they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And this did very nearly kill me. It could have killed me. The police and the paramedics said when I was on the floor and they were kicking the shit out of me, basically, 4 of them, big brave men like they are, they said if they'd have kicked you in the wrong place, you'd have been gone. And when you hear that from a medical professional, from a police officer, you think, fuck, something's like, I'm not religious, but I mean, somebody's looking out for me. Do you know what I mean? And it changed a lot of things. It put a lot of things into perspective for me. So it's been rough, but yeah.
Just
so
prior
to that, I take it you've never had any kind of big injuries.
No, not really. No, I mean, I had tendinosis on my tricep a few years ago. So you've got tendonitis, which is where the tendon is slightly inflamed, and you get golfer's elbow or tennis elbow. But then I had tendinosis, which is where the tendon's got like little incisions in it, so it's damaged. And I recovered from. I had physio, had shockwave therapy, had PRP, which is where they take your blood, spin it in a centrifuge, and inject it back in. Kevin Levrone did really well with that, apparently, and none of that worked. And I said to the guy my consultant who I was under at the time with it, he was quite forward thinking. Normally doctors are kind of like, they stick to the script. It's like, this is what's approved. This is what, he's approved, and this is what we stick to. This guy was quite progressive, he was quite forward thinking, which is how I got the PRP, because the PRP isn't very common in the UK. And I said to him, I said, look, I've got this peptide, this BPC 157. I said, it's supposed to be a wonder drug. I'm going to try it. What do you think? He said, well, give it a go. He says, it can't hurt. I went back to him 8 weeks later, and he was like, this is a fucking miracle. He's like, I was 90% recovered. And from that, I obviously knew BPC works. When there's damage, BPC works. So that was, I'm a BPC ever since December.
Do you mind talking us through what you did, like dosage-wise with that? Because I get asked about that all the time from clients and stuff. And I've used BPC myself, and I can't remember what I did. I was using it back in 2016. I don't know. I didn't see much from it myself, but it does sound like there's a good bunch of people that have. So, you mind running through kind of what you did on that front?
Yeah, I mean, the problem with BPC is it's not approved, as in it's a research peptide. They always put on the website, only use on rats or use on for experimental purposes. The consultant who I was under a few years ago when I had tendinosis said, this will never see the light of day in the medical world because they can't patent it. I was like, right, so that tells you all you need to know. But essentially, it stands for body protecting compound or something. And 157 is the number of amino acids, something like that. Anyway, I've kind of become the BPC guy. The amount of questions I get now, it's like, I've got a sore ankle, or I've got a bit of a headache. Can I use BPC? It's like, well, you can, but you're not going to see fuck all from it, because it only works if there's damage there. Which, with my elbow a few years ago, I knew there was damage because I'd had ultrasounds and all the rest of it. I actually had an MRI. I was kind of in this little fucking tube, like, which was good fun. So if there's damage, it does work. And from what I've read and the research that's been done, there's very little side effects if you like overdose it. So it got to the point where literally I got out of the hospital on the Saturday and I just banged in a bottle a day. I was just hammering a bottle a day. I spoke to
a bottle a day.
Yeah, mate, 5 milligram vial. I ordered about 15, 20. Excuse me. And I spoke to Mark Robinson, who runs Cardiff Sports, and Mark's very intelligent with that sort of stuff. I mean, he's got a degree and all sorts of weird and wonderful shit. And I said to him, how much should I use? And he was like, well, the more damage there is, the more it works. I was like, well, I've got a lot. You know, I've got my triceps fucked, my knees are fucked, so I just hammered a bottle a day, and I did that for a few weeks, and it was to the point where I've recovered. It's almost become a bit of a game. Like the medical professional will say, this is going to take you X number of weeks, and I've gone, no, it won't. It'll take me half that amount of time. And it's constantly, it's in my head. It's like a progressive bodybuilder meathead thing where I'm trying to constantly beat what is the professionals tell me. And when I went to see Yestin, who told me my tricep was fucked, I spoke to him because he's a physio in Gloucester, and he's a wrestler. He's competing himself now as a bodybuilder. He ruptured his patella tendon about 10 years ago wrestling. So he's been through this. He's played basketball, rugby. He's an all-out athlete. You know, some people are just like athletic as fuck. He's one of those. And when I saw him at 8 weeks, 7.5 weeks post-surgery, and he said to me, he says, you are with your knees, you are where you should be at 12 weeks. And I was only 7 weeks.
Oh, okay.
He said, I was like, is that down to the BPC? And he's like, well, he's basically like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical expert as such, but most likely.
Yeah.
So, and that for me, I was like, well, even if it's just an extra few percent, it's working, it's doing something. And not getting any negative side effects. So it's not like, you know, if you overdose on certain things, you're going to get a bad side effect or a bad reaction somewhere down the road. There isn't any, so there's no harm in hammering it.
See, that's quite interesting, because you'll probably laugh at this, because when I was using BPC, I was using 10 units. So that's what, 0.1 milligram. Like,
I don't know what that is, because it depends how much water you mix. Because it's a 5 milligram vial, so a liter of water in, it's still 5 milligrams.
Yeah.
You know, but it was getting to the point.
It wasn't a lot anyway. It wasn't a whole bottle a day. I was easily doing that over 3-4 weeks, a whole bottle. So
that's not just.
That's doing fuck all. No wonder it didn't fucking work.
Looking at sides. Yeah. But I was putting 2 million, and then that's 5 milligram, 1 mil, so like 100 units was 2.5 milligram, and I was doing that twice a day, or I was just kind of like, you know, doing say like 2/3 of the mil, and then just mix it through. But I'd make sure in 24 hours I'd done a whole vial. And I've backed it down now. I'm probably doing a vial every 3 or 4 days, but I'm still doing it, because although the damage is fixed, it can't hurt. It's better to have something.
Yeah.
So as I say, I mean, for me, I think it's been a wonder drug, and I think for anybody who's got damage, not just inflammation, damage, it will work wonders. So, but it is what it is.
Yeah, so pretty much like you can say you can do normal stuff now.
Pretty
much like almost back to normal now. You can like pretty much walk fine, go downstairs.
Yeah, I mean, they told me, they said, so you'll be in a wheelchair for a few months. I was like, no, I'm not, and I never was. They gave me crutches. I was on crutches for about 10 days, and I was like, fuck this, because essentially, because you know what the patella tendon is. It's the tendon. They say it's about as thick as 3 fingers. So if you imagine that's the tendon, that's the tendons. They attached it. One was ruptured at the joint, and then the other one was ruptured sort of halfway through. So I had to keep my knees dead straight for about 3 weeks. So I was kind of walking around like a penguin. I was literally walking. It was, you know, getting upstairs was an absolute ball ache. Getting down was even harder, because you kind of had to crawl upstairs and then crawl down. And it's all the stupid little things, like, you know, when you sit down, you try sitting down without bending your knees. It's difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Then even harder is standing back up again. Anyway, you just sort of learn these little things. And then obviously I've got the pain in my arm as well, so I couldn't use that arm so much to get up. I actually rely on my left arm. Yeah. And I am right-handed as well, for what that's worth. But I just you just adapted around it. And then like I get a little bit more. After 3 weeks, I had a knee brace, and then I could bend my knees a little bit. But it was things like sort of being sat on the sofa. When I was in hospital, they said try and raise your knee. Like I was sat like that. You imagine, like, I can't bend my legs, can't bend my fingers back. They said, "Oh, try and raise your legs," and I couldn't. I could bend my knees slightly, as in I could like move my foot up towards me. I couldn't lift my foot, and it was just every week I could lift my legs higher, and then I took the cricket splints off, the things that would keep my legs dead straight, and I could bend them. And I've got a few friends. There's a guy called Connor over in Republic of Ireland who had the same as me. He did his a few weeks before me. There's another guy called Brian who's just competed last weekend, all from Northern Ireland.
Yeah, I know Brian. Yeah,
he's done the same. And they really had it worse than me because I think they had multiple surgeries and different things. There's a guy called Chris up northeast, sort of Liverpool way. There's kind of like a bit of a group of us. We've all sort of had this shit, and we're all like sharing notes on like, well, where are you with your progress? And like
the splinter gang.
Yeah, the cripple gang. And it just every week it was like something new was happening. But I'm at the point now where I can pretty much get around. I'm back driving. Getting downstairs has been the hardest thing because if you imagine when you're walking downstairs, your patellar tendon is at the weakest point.
Yeah.
Get to like a flight of stairs, and I'll be like, I don't know what to do. Like, which do I go down with? And my left leg is slightly ahead of my right leg. It was just a massive head fuck. But then my wife was on crutches all the way through secondary school. She had like a very rare bone disease in her hip. She's a master at crutches. I mean, she's off them now, but at the time she was a master at crutches. And she said, get the crutches and balance yourself down the stairs. So I did that for like 2 weeks. And then eventually I got down to one crutch. And then I was just like, fuck this. And I did it. And ever since then, I've been able to walk downstairs for the last couple of weeks. But it's just one thing after another. You just progressively to normal. And, but we adapt. That's the thing. And
exactly.
I get so many people say, "Oh, it's amazing what you've done," and I'm like, the thing is, I wouldn't wish this on anybody, but what I've done is nothing more than anybody else. God forbid, if it ever happened to them, you don't just. We're not victims. We don't just sit still. Our mentality is to keep better, to keep pushing forward, to not give up, and just keep going with it. And that's all I've done. You think? I mean, it's been 4 months. So it's been roughly the size, the length of a prep. So it's just been week on week, options, improvements, and something I'll look back at and laugh, I hope.
I think one of the main questions we probably want to ask would be, obviously, as bodybuilders, like we're obviously very body conscious, like we've spent a lot of time building our muscles, spent a lot of time in the gym, trying to perfect our physiques. Obviously, with not training and what went on of your legs and calves, and obviously the muscles weren't being used, was that extremely difficult? Like obviously seeing your body regress in that way? Were you quite
really?
Okay? Because obviously, like I watched your stories like every day, and for me, I found you very inspirational or like very headstrong. To like, you just seem very focused to get through this. You seem very positive. Like obviously, I know for me, I would have struggled a lot seeing my body regress in that way. So I just wanted to know, like, did you find it difficult, or was it just like something you knew? I'm going to get it back. I've just got to get through this and get it done.
If I'm honest, no, it didn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm not too sure how long you've been training for, but I mean, I've been redlining now for like 11, 12 years, and it's actually quite a nice break. And trying to look at the positive side of it, it happened middle of December. The gyms were closed at the end of December, and then they opened. By the time they reopened, I was like, I'm ready to go back to the gym. Like sort of like it happened, and it couldn't have happened. Obviously, I wish it hadn't have happened, but it couldn't have happened at a better time because the gyms were closed anyway. But as far as muscle loss, Yestin, when I got out of surgery, Yestin was like, "You're going to lose a lot of muscle." This is my leg went down to just bone, so I was expecting that. And sometimes you'd look in the mirror and go, "Oh," but I didn't lose as much muscle as I thought. Like I have it below 280 pounds.
You've not gone below 280.
No.
Jesus Christ!
No, that's the thing. Like, don't
280 now.
I'm not like.
Well, I think I'll go. Fuck this.
But I'm not as muscular, and I'm fat at this 280 than I normally am. But I'm the scale that much, and I was like, at the end of the day, it's muscle memory. It's not like it's gone. It's never going to come back. Kevin LeBron, like he took off 6 months a year, and he'd come back in 6 months, and he would look exactly the same way as he did last year. Like I knew, and I know it'll come I've got to like not re-rupture it and just stay positive, really. I don't feel like I've done anything that anybody else wouldn't have. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. It's been hell in the sense that you rely on people. Like for the first few weeks, I was relying on my missus to sort of like cook meals for me, which I've never done before. I've always done it myself. I couldn't get upstairs to come to bed, so we've got a really big corner sofa, so we kind of put the footrest in the corner sofa, and it was like a little bed. It was really comfortable. I got the TV, I got my laptop, I could work. But you just adapt. You just adapt and you overcome it. That's all you do. And anybody would do the same thing. I've not done anything miraculous. I just buried my head in work. I just surrounded myself with my kids, and I actually had a really good Christmas, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was great because normally I'm upstairs at my desk and I'm buried in work, and because I was downstairs, I'd put a movie on, and the twins would come and sit with me, and we'd watch a movie together while I was working, and it was actually quite nice in a way.
Yeah.
It's changed my perspective on things. It's changed my focus on things. It really has. And we had friends around. Like, I'm not too sure if we're allowed to have friends around now. I'm not too sure what the new.
We won't grass you, don't worry, mate.
But like, we had friends around last night, and they said, "You seem different. You seem more positive and less, you know." And I was like, "Well, I've realised things, you know, and it's a bit of a shame I have to realise it, but I have, you know, and yeah, so."
No, that's good.
That's what I mean. I think you see it as like a kind of like almost as a blessing. You took it as just in your stride. It wasn't like anything negative. You're like, well, what's going to be the positives here? And you just took it on. That's why I found.
You know what as well? The thing was, I was thinking these four fucking bastards have done this to me, right? I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of through this. I'm going to make the fucking most of all this. And when they get to prison, when they're being bummed in the showers in prison, the families have disowned them. My life's going to be getting better, so fuck them, basically. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to let them win. Not that they'd know any which way, but I was like, it's not going to happen. So they don't deserve the headspace. They're not going to get the headspace. Fuck them.
Aye, totally.
That's amazing.
Have they appeared in court yet?
They were due for a plea hearing in the magistrates, and the judge threw it out and said no, straight to Crown Court because of the severity of it. They're being charged with 2 counts of GBH, which is like 1 down from attempted murder.
Mm-hmm.
But only 3 of them are still alive, shall we say. The other one was involved in some of the bullshit and met his maker. So
fucking hell, Jesus.
That just speaks to the character.
It just shows
exactly. Aye, exactly.
So,
I thought I'd steer the conversation away from, obviously, because I don't want everyone just think that's all you're known for is that. So, but obviously, like I've followed you since day one. I mean, you were. I remember you competing. What show did you do in 2012? What shows were they?
I did in 2012. I did the NAB of Britain and then the NAC Open or something. It was up in Manchester, and 4th as a first timer, and I won the NAC novice, and then I won the overall, and then I switched to the UK BFF in 2013. Yeah,
because I remember seeing you in those shows because that was the same year I started competing, and obviously so I saw you as a first timer. I was like, fucking hell, that's a big first timer.
Fat first timer, but it's a big one.
But I think yourself can agree. I think that conditioning has kind of on like a week out on the day of the show has sometimes kind of what's the word? Not gone as per planned as what you thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And because when you look at shots from you like from 6 weeks out, you know it's all there. You're on point. You know you're always on point. So. Have you ever, obviously you document quite a lot on your Instagram and stuff like that, but have you ever been able to kind of wonder and find out what those influences are that kind of change those last couple of days before a show, on the day of the show?
I don't think it's a few days. I think I'm just not lean enough. I mean, it is what it is. You know, I've always struggled with the condition. It's funny because, I mean, you know, rest his soul, Luke Sando, me and Luke used to joke every year, we're going to get in shape this year. He used to be like a bit of a thing because we kind of came up at the same time. And Luke obviously nailed it and went on and did wonders, and he's changed. I think he's changed things for British bodybuilding. But I was just never lean enough. That was always the thing, and it just, as you say, look great. You look great in the gym, you know, sort of like with shorts on and your top off and all the rest of it. But then it's the little things like that little bit on the inside of your arse, or like your hamstrings, or there's always something. I could just never quite nail it. The British last year was probably the best I've ever looked. And it still wasn't really enough. But then I just didn't work hard enough, I guess. I don't know, if I'm honest. I mean, it's not something I'm embarrassed. I mean, it's a bit stupid after like 10 years that I can't get in condition, but it is what it is. I've always struggled.
Yeah, it just shows it's an evolving thing. I mean, you worked with did you work with Sato last year as well for the British?
2018 with Chris, yeah.
Because I remember you praising him quite highly of just kind of how different he was compared to other people that had helped you. So what was it? Do you think that kind of he did so differently that other coaches?
Chris is like, oh geez, he doesn't have a plan. I mean, I'll give you an example. He does the most weird and quirky stuff, and it's like he doesn't necessarily know what he's going to do with you. He looks. He's got the eye, so you'll send him photos. Say, do this. Send me photos in 3 days. You know, right? Okay, that makes no sense, but okay, whatever. You're Chris Aceto, go with it, and you do it, and you send him photos, and then you compare them side by side, and you're like, oh well, okay, yeah, that worked, and just his approach is so unorthodox. You know, like most people sort of like they check in Saturday to Saturday or Sunday to Sunday or however they do it. Chris was just, you talk to him and say, right, just send me some photos tomorrow. Let's see how you look. And he's got a photographic memory. I mean, literally, it was like I spoke to him when he came over in, I think it was was it last year or the year before? I think it was 2019. He came over with Sean Roden and he came to our gym. And we were talking and, you know, sort of catching up sort of thing. And he was like, yeah, and he mentioned a particular date and he sort of cited the background because I always stand in the garden. That was something I did with Chris as well. He said, do it outside in natural sunlight. And he pinpointed, because my kids' toys are just everywhere in the back garden. It's like a jumble site. It's ridiculous. Greg, you'll know all about that. And it was like, he described it and I was like, okay, no. So I looked through the photos that I'd sent him and I was like, he's fucking spot on. Like it was exactly where he said it was. And just his approach is just so, he's very basic and unorthodox. And I'll never forget the one week I was going away for the weekend. I think the missus she booked somewhere for us to go. I think we were going somewhere in Wales or something. And I said, look, have you got any idea? Have we changed anything? I messaged him on the Wednesday. I said, look, are we doing anything on the weekend? Is there anything I need to get ready? Because I'm going away. He's like, I haven't got a clue. Just send me photos on Friday and I'll let you know. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's so unorthodox, but it worked. He changed the way I thought about bodybuilding completely. Just completely changed the way I thought about bodybuilding.
Yeah, I remember saying that. Yeah.
The plan is there is no plan. He just looks at you and do.
I think I spoke to you obviously about you like coaching yourself, and you said obviously you're quite a big guy and running very very low carbs and like just really beating yourself like just having protein. Obviously, I know obviously Chris is much different than that. So was that quite a big thing to grasp your head around? Like he's quite into like refeed cheat meals and like obviously more carbs than you'd have been on.
He is, yeah. I mean, he run me very flat. He figured very quickly he had to run me flat, which I kind of already guessed. But then every sort of like few days he'd say, yeah, go get a burger and fries. And I was like, any particular type? And he was like, he said, no, just make sure it's the same every week. So every time we say to do this, so I always did 5 guys. It was nice and simple. 5 guys is good. I had one yesterday actually. And yeah, it was just always the same. He'd refeed, and it was just very random. Like, you know, I'd send him photos and say a Sunday or a Saturday or something, and then like a few days later, he'd say, "Send me some more photos," and he'd say, "Yeah, tonight, go get a burger and fries." I was like, what have you seen that I haven't? But it was like quirky shit. Like you'd be on rice or I'm just using this. This isn't exact, but I'm just using this as a sort of the way he did things. You'd be on X amount of rice, and then he'd say, "Right, next few days, drop the rice and put in potato." Right, okay. He'd say like 6 ounces of potato or something, just something random. He'd, okay, fine. And then he'd send him photos again, and he'd say, "Can you see the difference?" I was like, "Oh yeah." He says, "Right, go back to rice now." I was like, okay, I've no idea. I've genuinely got no idea what he was doing, but it worked, I guess, to a degree.
Yeah.
How would you say you looked after being with him? Compared to other times? How did you feel that like, obviously by the end of prep? How did you feel you looked with Chris like other times with yourself?
I was happy 24 hours before the show, and then we loaded, and it didn't quite go right, and it was a bit of an experiment. That sort of I was lean, but it didn't quite. I mean, I got 4th at the show. Yeah, I think that was probably the second best I looked. I think the best I looked was last year. That was the happiest I've been because I was the leanest. Oh, we've lost time.
No, I just updated it.
Okay.
That's what I was doing. If you saw my eyes skewing to the right, I'm trying to fucking plan how to upgrade it like that.
I think it's the second best I looked, but it was such good fun. It was brilliant. There was quite a lot of cardio, which last year I didn't do. I did cardio sporadically if I was bored or if I just wanted to get away from everybody. I'd just jump on the stairs or jump on the garage in my bike or something. But we got to a point where there was 2 hours. But then after a while, he'd say, right, don't do any cardio for the next 4 days. I was like, Why? What's happened? And then he'd say, "What? Do half an hour tomorrow," and it just really random, and it seemed to work. Yeah.
Like, obviously, we know his eye is just like incredible, but like when you hear stories like yourself and you saying that, and I've spoke to Harry Harris about it as well.
Yeah,
and it honestly, it's like as if he just goes like that and just hopes that it fucking works. And you know, I've tried with clients to be a bit like, right, Sato does this, so I'm going to say to my client, right, just do 3 days of no cardio and we'll see what happens. But you have to remember that it's someone like yourself or like someone at like a really high level where those 3 days of not doing anything, that makes a massive difference to your look. Whereas someone who's kind of lower amateur level, you know, it's like they just need to keep going. They need that rigid plan. So
it was probably the easiest prep, if I'm honest. Like it was very easy. As in, I didn't have to think about anything. I just trusted him. But his emails are legendary. I'm not even joking. He's English. When he types English, it's fucking terrible. It's like best being or and if you look at the comments on his Instagram, like the people who he works with, like quote the things he says. And like photos, and you'll get like K, literally the letter K. That's it.
That's pretty important.
One of the best.
It's just so bizarre. It's just good fun. It is really good fun. But it was a bit of a weird one that year because I was meant to do the British. I won the Welsh in 2017, the UKBFF Welsh, and I was meant to do the British. And as you know, the UKBFF split from the NPC. So I'd qualified for I won the Welsh. I was meant to do the UKBFF, and I just looked shit, and I was like, "Fuck this!" I pulled out. Obviously, James won that, and I carried on dieting because I've been dieting for such a long time. I didn't want to stop. And then obviously Two Bros announced the Two Bros announcement came out and all the rest of it. And then there was the show in March, I think it was March, the first Two Bros. So I just carried on dieting. So I did that show and got second to Jamie. And then there was the muscle contest in Ireland. And I was like, well, it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it was. So I jumped, I've never been to Ireland either. So I was like, right, book that, did shit. And while I was over there, I'm quite good friends with Masoom Butt, 212 Pro. And he was there doing the pro show. And I was talking to him. And I said, Masoom, joking. I said, what am I doing wrong? Why am I fucking this up? And he said, you need to speak to Chris. I went, yeah, of course. Yeah, good one. He says, no, hang on. Pulls his phone out, sends a text, and sends a photo of me. And Chris emailed back saying, this was after the morning show and then before the night show. And Chris said, yeah, get him to send me an email. And I was like, I was done at Ireland. Like that was it. I was going to come home and that was it. I was going to that was it for the year. And I was like, oh, fuck, I've got the chance to work with Chris Aceto now. Like, what the fuck do I do? I've been dieting 12 months. I've been dieting 12 months already. I was like, what the fuck do I do? And I messaged my wife. I was like, I've got this chance to work with Chris. What shall I do? And she was like, go for it. I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I carried on dieting and worked with Chris. And it was horrible, but it was, yeah. Couldn't pass that opportunity up. So,
yeah, definitely. What was I going to say? I was going to say something like, yeah, you touched something at the start that you're like a software developer.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be one of the few guys in the industry that's not an online coach?
It's weird. I do get a lot of people about coaching, and I'm like, no, I've never been in shape myself. Well, arguably, I'm not qualified. It's not what I do as a profession. I've always been a programmer at 13, so it's just something I've always done. And I mean, I've helped people here and there, sort of thing, like friends and ad hoc, but yeah, it's not really. There's better. YouTube, prime example. There's better people at it, and you've got to have the patience of a saint as well. Because these fucking babysitting, I'm too blunt. I think it's my problem. I'm just like,
yeah, it's definitely a trait. I think that. Oh man, like we've discussed this in the previous podcast. I'm sure you've heard like every coach complain under the sun about kind of clients and stuff. But I think I love your honesty. When I've obviously seen before, like some of the stuff you put up about coaches and that, and it's a game where everyone thinks it's a gold mine in that, and you're saying you were doing kind of software developing and from a really young age, and that's where your kind of talent lies, and that's where your career and that's where the money comes from. And I just feel that. You're a good example of, perhaps that we shouldn't all be chasing. A lot of us aren't justified to be chasing kind of the coaching route, so to speak. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think the problem is as well. It's the old joke of like somebody does one show and then all of a sudden they're a prep coach.
Yeah.
And like you know, when Instagram works, where you don't see somebody's posts for like a period of time, and then you sort of look for them. I haven't heard anything from them for a while. You look them up, and then it's like, 10 spaces available. I'm like, what the fuck? 3 weeks ago, you were like, you'd never done anything, you'd never achieved it. You know, they just don't justify. And I'm like, who the fuck is signing up with these people? Like you, I'm not missing arse because you're here, but you two have won a lot of shows. You both seasoned, you know, you're top level amateurs, and you should both be professional within the next 12 months if you go for it. Greg, I mean, you were like, well, we've spoken about this before, you know, last year. Like,
I think it was close. It was close.
If you'd have done, I think if you'd have done the shaft of the British last year, it would have been yours. I really do. But I'm like, how are these people who's signing up with them? Who's paying them? Who's stupid enough to pay them? What the fuck? On what basis they do? I mean, you couldn't just come in after sort of like doing a bit of basic programming or Java or something. So, right, I'm now a programmer. I'm now available.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, like you just couldn't do. Whereas it's the fitness industry, the bodybuilding industry is a bit of a wild west. Anybody does it. Anybody with an Instagram account does it.
Yeah.
It's just the thing, obviously. It's like we spoke about this last week, and it's like people just, what they see is what they'll believe. It's not like they don't think about it. They don't like process what's coming in. They just see it and believe it. So it's like somebody has a great Instagram account, they fucking bought all their followers, they bought all their comments, bought all their fucking likes, whatever it is. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, this person's popular. Look at all these like fucking folk they're posting, and like, oh, they're quite a good price. They must be really good. I'll go with them. And it's like, they've done jack shit. And it's like, they don't see that. They don't look in the research of who these people are. They're just looking at like the amazing stuff they see, and it's so easy to sell to people. What people think. It's just,
absolutely,
it is at the moment, and it's a bad industry. People are just looking up to fake icons.
It's not regulated. I mean, and not that I'm really not for regulation. I'm the complete opposite, because I just think, you know, things fall where they naturally should. But like, it is just like the Wild West, that the coaching industry or the coaching profession, whatever you want to call it, it really is like the Wild West. But then again, I think when you've got a good coach, they hold on to their clients. You know, I mean, you two have got to have clients that you've had for years.
Yeah.
The cream rises at the end of the day, and these fly-by-night coaches, we call them coaches, they come and go every week, and you know, it's where it is. But it's the poor fuckers who get suckered in, who end up messed up and disappointed and disheartened, that are on the losing end. But yeah, it's insane, man, insane.
Yeah, I always say that, like, it doesn't just apply to competitors and bodybuilders, but you've got people who come into the fitness industry, and you know that first experience is with one of these kind of PTs and coaches, and it then deters them to then work with, you know, passionate coaches, like coaches like I've said a million times, like, and obviously I'm not just trying to plug myself, but like I enjoy coaching just as much as I do competing myself, and you know, I think it, you know, that's one person that could have had a good placing or a good showing. That's never gonna do it again, you know. So it's pretty painful when you think of it that way. But yeah, I think you touched on the point of, what was it, regulation and stuff. So I won't spend too long on this. It's obviously a bodybuilding conversation, but like a lot of your political stuff I find pretty entertaining. I was hoping you'd wear a MAGA hat coming into the interview, into the podcast.
Sorry, say that again. I lost my internet connections. I think my eldest is playing FIFA or something along. The internet keeps dipping. What was that again? Sorry.
Have you got me now? Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I was just saying, like, you were talking about regulation earlier, and I just felt that wee kind of undertone of political speech coming through there. I was half expecting you to show up with a MAGA hat, but then obviously
it's downstairs. It's I've got this. It does. If you flick it, it does move. Fucking love Trump. I've got the rocks. This is the rocks, by the way. You can't get these.
That's pretty cool, actually. Yeah.
So there's a bit of a group of us who sort of like the Under Armour rock stuff, Project Rock stuff, and I've got the Project Rock hat. Yeah.
How much do you think you've spent in the last year buying the rock stuff?
How much have I spent?
How much do you think you've spent?
Oh shit, thousands. If I tell them this is sugar mad. I think I've got 4 or 5 tops coming as well now. It's like a bit of a collector's thing at the moment. I like get them because you can't get them in the UK. I'm like, nobody else has got these. Politics. I got involved because I went self-employed as a software developer about 6 years ago, and obviously I've got 3 kids. I've got an 11. Well, he's 11 next month, and I've got twins who have just turned 5. And like, I could see the area was slowly getting worse and worse, and then the whole Brexit thing came about, and I was a bit like, that's right. Everybody got an opinion on Brexit, whether you agree with it or not, which is, whatever. And I just thought, I'm going to see what's going on. And I'm the type of person whereby if I get into something, I go all the way. It was like wrestling. I always loved wrestling as a kid, so I got involved in wrestling, and I got involved in training and then shows, bodybuilding, the same thing, just everything like that. I just always go the full way. And I got involved with the local Conservative Party. Hold your nose. That was the only party that was going, just because my MP she was a Conservative MP. And within 12 months, I got sort of elected. I went in basically to ask the questions, because everybody licks arse in politics. It's like, who can climb the greasy pole the fastest? I'm like, I don't want to be a politician, but I don't want these politicians fucking my life up. I just want them to leave me the fuck alone, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like paying loads of tax for, because the government doesn't spend it properly, it wastes it. I don't like all this regulation because it holds us back. And there was just a bunch of things. And I got involved, and within 12 months, I got elected to deputy chair of the association. So I was quite up there in the association. And then when the Brexit party came about, so I got asked to get involved. And I thought, well, yeah, why not? I can make a difference doing this. I thought if I stand against my current MP and get in, I can at least get in and try and do something from a normal person's perspective, because these politicians, they're almost like groomed to be the position they're in. They're not not normal people. They don't understand what it's like for people like us. They don't understand what it's like whereby funding gets cut locally, or crime increases because they don't live in the area or whatever. So it's like, well, this is a way I can make a real difference. So I got involved, and it's just snowballed. And that, I ended up standing in the election as an independent. And it just, politics is like, it's always a touchy subject because it's so tribal. And I'm like, I don't give a shit what team you're on. I just want the best result for people. And that's what I care. It's like, I want, we all want this. It doesn't matter your race, religion, ethnicity, skin color, hair color, sexuality. It doesn't matter what you are. We all want the same thing. We all want good jobs, safe streets, low taxes. We all want good, good police. We all want the same things, broadly speaking. And we get screwed over by these sort of career politicians who are just in it just because they're fucking useless in everything else. I'm like, well, I've got a business, I've got a family, I've got a career, but I'm not happy with the people who are doing it. So I'm like, well, you've got to be the change you want to see. So get involved. And I've got a bit of a mouth on me, and I said what I thought, and I didn't really give a shit about making friends because I've got my friends, I couldn't give a shit. And it just went from there, really. So.
Yeah, because I think that's a really interesting part of it, because obviously I think most guys...
Toby?
You got me? You hear me?
2 seconds. Are you on the PlayStation?
Yeah.
You're on the PlayStation? You're on the internet? Oh, okay. Sorry, the internet keeps going really slow. I keep losing you. It comes up, your internet connection is bad.
Have you got me now?
Yeah, I've got you now. Yeah.
Yeah, I just, like I was waiting to say, it's quite good having seen someone at your level who's obviously not one-dimensional. So I think it's a lot of people presume we're all very one-dimensional. We don't have opinions on other things other than, obviously, because one of the things you get on the rare night out is people asking me about the gym and stuff. Even some of my best mates from school, mate, like they won't be watching this anyway, but they're always like, what are you doing with competing? What are you doing with training? But I was like, mate, I do talk about other fucking things. Like, I've got opinion on a lot of things. And I find myself sometimes that because you're so contained in this bodybuilding bubble, that when you have the opportunity to speak your mind about something else, it just turns into a fucking rant and explosion. And all of a sudden it turns into this, like you said, a whole snowball effect, and just comes out. It is funny how, because sometimes when I have clients, like one-to-one clients, and I'll start talking about my opinions on certain political things and stuff, which is always a kind of dangerous subject in Glasgow, but they're like, fucking hell, I thought you was eating fucking fish and care about lifting weights and stuff, and I was like, no, it's all there, it's all under the head, man. But no, like I say, it's pretty cool. So
it is funny because everybody presumes that all you focus on is dumbbells and barbells, all you do is eat chicken and you just take a load of juice and you work the doors on a Friday night. It's like, well, that's what me said to do. You know, you just walk around. It's like, no, you know, we're quite clever. You know, we've got a bit of a brain between us. Yeah, you're right though. I think, and I've always said, if somebody Googles my name, I want them to think Aaron Hudson is multiple people, because I've been involved with politics, wrestling, bodybuilding. I've been, as I said, a bit of acting. You know, we was talking the other day, Greg. I've just been contacted by the new TV station, GB News, about being a contributor. So like being on the TV show as an opinion sort of thing. You know, like on Good Morning Britain, where they'll have somebody to come on and argue with Piers Morgan. I've just been asked to do that. You know, that they knew me from the election, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, why not? You know, it's the worst that can happen. So I've always just sort of
the new Jerry Springer.
Yeah, can you imagine? Oh God. There are so many people. They are literally chicken and rice and barbells, and that is all there is to them. That's their world, and it's quite sad, because at the end of the day, as December proved, if something goes wrong, you've got fuck all else to fall back on. You know, there's so yeah.
No, that's cool. We'll switch back to.
Was I jumping up in some of the questions?
Yeah, I was going to send. Oh, is that through Instagram, or is that one of your own ones?
No, the ones I spoke to you about.
All right, aye, that's fine.
Obviously, you said you've been competing for a good part of 10 years, and obviously you've stood on stage with some amazing people. You've probably met some amazing people. You've met some coaches. You've probably met some big influences in the sport. In all the years competing, what's the most valuable lesson you've probably learned, and what was probably some of the worst advice you've ever been given by somebody?
Worst advice, God. I had Scott Francis help me a little bit in 2015. That was pretty disastrous.
Oh fuck! I forgot about Scott Francis. What's he doing now?
Fuck knows. Probably ripping. He's working his way through the whole of the UK, ripping people off. The prick. Worst. I've had a lot of bad advice. I think you probably know this as well. When you started competing, the minute you show a little bit of a reaction to things and you start looking good, everybody kind of wants to put their 2 pence in. Everybody wants to give you that bit of advice. Oh, do this, try this, you know, take this, do. And it ends up sort of like you get baffled by bullshit. And because everybody wants to say, because they can see potential, everybody wants to say, I helped him in the early days, or I gave him his first time. Everybody wants to lay claim to your success in some way, shape, or form. So all of the old boys in the gym, they all want to kind of help, and they haven't got a fucking clue, and they haven't got a clue what they're doing. But at the time, you're younger, you're eager to learn, so you take it all in, and you as I say, you get baffled by bullshit. Best advice, God, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I think, as I say, Chris was a great influence. Working with Paul Scarborough was fantastic as well. That guy is so underrated. Like, he's one of the smartest.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
He really is. He's such a good friend as well. I've known Paul for years, and he helped me when I was in the shit in 2016, going into that big British final. Yeah, I mean, he gave me a lot of good advice, and yeah, a lot of it I still follow today. I wouldn't tell him that because I wouldn't want to give him the satisfaction. But,
no, it's been like Greg with me.
Yeah.
Hey, I've told you, just fucking hang on to my fucking coattails.
So prior to, obviously, you've got obviously you're dealing with kind of everything that happened with that incident now, but before, I know you're a very intuitive trainer. You know, you don't just you're not as Matt Tofton put it, part of the JP culture. With the log booking and that sort of thing, and so how when you get your setup and you move into and go into the gym, like what's going through your head in terms of like what you need to do? I mean, I've tried to train intuitively, like obviously, but to the extent where I still know the body part I'm going to train, and obviously back like one of the big names that people will know who are watching this is the Rich Piana, and he was like saying, right, today I feel like I need a bit more chest, so I'll do chest today, and so on. So how is it you kind of you'll work through that?
I think I've never really chased size, unless this sounds really stupid. I've never really chased size, so I've never gone in thinking, right, I need to lift to lift this much weight to get this big or anything else. I've always just trained sort of like to enjoy it, and that's why I got into this too, because I wanted big arms and I wanted to look a little bit different. And that's still the case now, really. You just want to look a little bit different, but then on stage you want to win, obviously. But I've never, the whole logbook thing, it never made sense to me, because I think sometimes you have a bad session, and you see some people that they'll train and then like they don't get the numbers that they did last week. And they're miserable as fuck. It's like they've failed. The whole world come caving in. I'm like, you've still gone to the gym. You've smashed it on the day, and that's it. You've done what you can do. But there's been no end of times I've gone into the gym and I've got to train legs or gone to train back or something. Done a couple of sets and gone, no, this isn't happening today. I still feel fucked from last time, or I feel too tired. I'm just going to do some arms and some calves or something. And I've always been more sort of listening to the body. It's cliche, so I've always done things. But it's whatever works. At the end of the day, there's so many good bodybuilders and there's so many people who've done it different ways. It all works. It's just whatever suits you,
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
More than one way to skin a cat at the end of the day.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, I think, I was touching this before as well, but I think it's just like where your mindset is of how you want to attack your workouts, of how you want to feel in your workouts, or what you want to get. So it's totally massive to each individual person and how you can go about your workout. I mean, I've tried many various ways over years. So have you, Andy. I'm sure you've had more than one way as well, Aaron. So it's just, you need to find which way works for you at the end of the day. There's no right or wrong.
I mean, you can kind of assess how you're feeling. If you've had a long day at work, or the kids have been up all night or whatever, 3 scoops of pre-workout, go in wired as fuck, and just like go, right, put some music on, put some loud angry music on, let's just fucking just go in and forget the world sort of thing. And that's what it's always been for me, is like a bit of an outlet. But then other times it's like you just have a shit session, when you say like 4 or 5 weeks out and it's just nothing's clicking, nothing's popping, you just feel like shit.
Yeah.
You've got to find the motivation on that day, you just crack on, don't you, I suppose?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like, personally, I don't know how many guys who train like yourself nowadays, obviously, because we're all kind of bought into kind of training systems and different things like that, because obviously I work with Patrick, so Patrick's known for SST, and as intelligently put together it's still like you still feel kind of married to systems and married to like your coach's outlook and stuff like that. So but even before, like I said, I tried to train intuitively within like the session boundaries. So if I knew I was going to train shoulders, I was going to do certain things, but I find personally that very hard to do. I feel that, you're talking about the guys who are miserable when they miss reps and miss weight. That's me. You know what I mean? And I think it's taken me a long time to find that point in my training where you miss a couple of reps and you can put it to the back of your mind and kind of crack on. But no, it's interesting to hear kind of your outlook and how you train there, because I think
Patrick really like interests me, to be honest, because it's like, I mean, you look at what he's done with James. I dare say it's going to be the same with yourself, Andy. When you get on stage, you're going to be like, well, this is how he looked last show, and this is how he looks now. And he's always looking sane, and he seems very particular. Listening to what people say about him, he seems very particular in what he does. So he fascinates me. As I say, there's different ways of doing things. I mean,
of course, yeah.
The best way I can sort of compare it to is people learn in different ways. Like I'm quite a practical learner. If like go back to coding, if I'm going to code, I can read a book, or I can excuse me, or I can watch like a YouTube video on how something's done or whatever else. But I don't learn that way. I have to sort of like get in and mess with it and break it and learn that way. Whereas other people learn by reading. We all learn in different ways, and that's what's quite interesting about the psychology, is that we all learn in different ways and we all apply things in different ways. So it's, you want to go look at Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman. One trained heavy block, balls out, each body part twice a week. Then there was Jay Cutler, who was like, rep after rep, set after set, and they were both Mr. Olympia. I mean, it's, as you say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I sent you the documentary I was watching this morning on Jake Nikolopoulos. That's how you pronounce his last name. And it's quite funny because obviously he trains quite similar to you, Aaron. He's quite a feel for the workout. His first coach had him doing like stuff like precision, like very good form, great contract stuff. And then he started working with Lee Priest, and Lee Priest was obviously like maybe 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps, but like they were precision as well. When you're watching them doing some presses, they were super slow. And he says, I wouldn't do it if I didn't feel the contraction phase and everything through it. And like his rise in his physique throughout the years was amazing. Like great physique. But like I had a conversation with Jordan the other day. I was asking him about my bicep curl stuff, and I said to him, like, I can easily move up in weight and do the rep range with the same perfect control, the contraction, but I do not feel it anywhere near as close to the weight of just the way I move up from. And it was pretty much like feelings overrated. It was like, if you can go through the heavier weight with great form and it looks perfect, that muscle's working. Like, you might not have the amazing contraction, perfect peak, stuff like that, but it was like feelings overrated. So it was like, as long as you can perform in perfect form, that muscle's going to grow. And that to me was like, oh fuck, you really do want to feel what you're doing, because you're like, am I actually contracting? Is this, or I'm just using pure will and power to pull this? And it's a bit of a head fuck in a sense, but like I can obviously see where it's coming from. If like that muscle's pulling it, it's fucking working.
It's whatever works. I mean, you know, and did you do push-pull legs, or are you upper lower? Or
it's actually like chest and biceps, legs, back, and then I'll do shoulders, triceps.
Yeah.
So it's better, but like his training methods have actually changed a little bit. Like there's a lot of cluster sets and drop sets and stuff in it now. So it's not just like the one heavy, one deload. A lot of stuff's quite changed. So it is, I found it quite interesting because I quite like Patrick's methods as well. But like I obviously knew like Jordan's quite into like building the mass, build the thickness, build the strength. And it was like when I moved there and he had that in as well, I was like, oh, fucking brilliant. I've got the best of both worlds here. So it was really good.
Yeah. How about yourself, Andy? How does Patrick have you train?
Just now, so like you said, Patrick he analyzes everything in the finer detail and that. So just now it's chest buys, majority quad, minority ham, and then back, shoulders, tries, and then majority ham, minority quad. So that's what he's got to do just now. So, and you know, it's one all-out working set. Second set is your intensity stuff. So, like Greg said, your clusters and things like that. So it's been the full SST training itself. I think I fell victim to a wee bit as well. Is it's made out to be this like James Hollingshead fucking transformation machine setup, and Greg done SST with me when he came down to Glasgow, and it is amazing and it does work really well. But I've been very vocal before about it. It's not quite my cup of tea. It's a lot of conditioning stuff. Like you need to be cardiovascular conditioned to kind of get through it all.
I'd be fucked then. So
first set gone, see you later. But it's the training that I think I've seen the most from Patrick is the current setup. I think James is doing the same kind of setup just now as well. It's the one loading, bang, force reps, usual shit we see from the big guys like JP and the guys like that, and then we move on to like the intensity increasing stuff with the SST kind of principles, and that merge of the two systems I think is definitely what's allowed me to progress in the past. Patrick said himself this morning that the last 4 or 5 weeks have been probably the most my physique has shifted this past year in off season. So I think it's purely down to kind of that merge of the two systems, which I find quite interesting. So,
do you know one of the I did? I've always done like a typical bro split, as they call it. And you know, I've always done 12 sets, so it was like four exercises, 3 sets per exercise, or 3 exercises, 4 sets per exercise. So essentially, you've just got to smash the shit out of these 12 sets, and that's pretty much how I've always trained the whole way. With Paul, he had me doing push-pull legs, and it was 6 days training on a Sunday off, and that was because we were like 5 or 6 weeks out, and he just wanted me to blitz through as much energy as possible. One of the hardest, but then when I've gone to like Ultimate Fitness and train with Randeep and Dean Laziak, they like a lot of giant sets at the end, so we'll do like almost like a circuit. We train, and then we do like a circuit afterwards. Yeah. One of the hardest sessions I've ever done. I train legs with Jamie Durago. a couple of years ago. Jamie at the time was getting training advice from Mike and Lisa Gelsey, and the way we were listening, mate, it was the hardest leg session I've ever done in my life. Like,
I've never seen volume like that.
It wasn't even. It was the level of intensity. I mean, Mike and Lisa are fucking geniuses, and it was like we were doing like 30% of what you'd normally lift, but it was like there was a certain tempo to each rep, and I was fucked, and I was like, it just proved to me there's so many different ways of doing things, and it's just whatever suits you really.
100%.
That's what it's all about. That's the magic of what we do. It's just so vast. It's same with styles. I like running myself really flat, and I go insane, and I use fats as well, and it just that works for me. Whereas like other people have said, you need more carbs. You're too big to do that. I'm like, well, it doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work. So there's just so many different ways of doing things, And with Chris didn't get involved with training at all. Like he sort of said, this is your diet. We'll adjust your diet based on how you look, and obviously the same for cardio. But how you train is completely up to you. Because I did ask him. I said, "Well, is there any particular way I should train?" He's like, "No, you're the bodybuilder. You know what you're doing." Okay, cool.
Did you not quite like cut your training back to maybe 80%? Did you not say stuff like, or your cardio, go and do cardio at like 80% or something?
Yeah, he did do that with cardio. Sometimes if he'd ask, maybe he'd say sort of like, how do you feel? How was your session or whatever? And I'd say, I'm exhausted or whatever. He'd say, right, okay, just take a day off. Or he'd say, next session, just do light work. He wasn't very specific, but he'd just say, pull back a little bit. But he wasn't like, right, you need to do X number of sets. And, he wasn't like that at all. He just left that left to me, really. Yeah, it's interesting. Every single coach does things differently.
Yeah. So going back to competing, obviously you've got to deal with kind of what you're going through just now. What's the kind of what you're thinking going forward? As we make, you got that far yet, or?
When it first happened, I convinced myself I'm done competing. I was like, this is done. Just accept it. It's done. Don't get your hopes up. It's done. Anything from there, just being back in the gym would be a bonus. And I kind of got over it, if I'm honest. I was like, well, okay, done. But as things are going at the rate I'm recovering, I'm like, well, I probably could get back on stage, maybe next year. I really wanted to do this year because my first show was in 2011, and I've done at least one show every year for the last 9 years. So this year would have been my 10th year on the bounce. But that's kind of out the window, really. But I mean, I'd love to at some point. But if I don't, I'm fine with that. At the end of the day, I'm not a great competitor anyway. I'm a good gym bodybuilder, maybe. I'm big. I look decent walking around Tesco, but on stage, just always fall apart.
Yeah.
So it is. I'm not great at it. There's other people better at it, and I'm okay with that. I've had fun. I've made friends. I've been in the magazines. I've got to travel around a little bit, and I've had some really good sponsorships. So, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I've had fun with it. So.
Yeah, I guess the main thing is you can leave happy and obviously with no regrets or anything. Then there's nothing to really worry about.
It's like, I mean, somebody said to me last year, they were like, if you don't get this, it'll be like a cry. I mean, I'm paraphrasing. They were like, it'd be a crying shame. You'll always be that guy who should have turned pro but never did. It's like, yeah, well, whatever. What can I do? I always picked the hard shows to go into, and I never won the right show. That's it. It is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at like Stuart Core. Stuart Core. He as a junior, Stuart Core was like fucking. He was up there with Dorian and Ian Harris, and and he never got his pro card, but he's still remembered as being.
Yeah. I know it's that's obviously an incredibly healthy kind of way to kind of. I didn't obviously I've seen like your posts and stuff on Instagram, your stories and stuff, and I knew you were kind of handling it quite well, but I didn't realize just how well you're actually kind of handling it. It's been actually quite kind of, when I'm fucking bitching and moaning about the most ridiculous like minuscule thing, it kind of puts it in perspective really as well, that you kind of
there's people worse out there. There are people who've got it worse. There's a guy called Matt who goes to my gym, and he's got some really rare sort of bone disease, and he can't walk very well. He has to walk with splints and everything else, but he's competed in the disability class in PCA, and he still goes every week and he smashes the shit out of it. And the one I was in, this was last year, just before, it was before a show. I was in there with my missus. And obviously my wife's there with like, this was before this happened to me. My missus is there with her sort of dodgy hip, as it was. And then Matt's there with his problems. And hearing them talk and comparing notes, it was like two fucking Furbies rattling off. You know, but they were there talking. I was like, fuck me, they've been through hell, man. You know, why am I complaining about dieting? Like, and I look at it now and I'm like, people still come back from worse. You know, Zach Khan, for his quads, still went on and competed as a pro, and we're all dealt different cards at the end of the day. But I genuinely, and I'm not just saying this for effect, I think anybody in this situation that I've been in would have handled it exactly the same way, because that's just our mentality. It just is. You know, I'm genuinely not saying this for like, oh, you know, how great am I? I'm saying it because we all would have dealt with this the same way. We would have, you know, sort of, you wipe your tears away, you straighten yourself up, and you fucking crack on with it, because that's
100%. Yeah, quite right.
But it has mentally strengthened me. Like, I'd actually quite like the mindset I've got now. I'd quite like to prep, because I think it'd be so much easier. So I'd be like, this is a doddle. The other day, this time last year, I couldn't even get to the toilet properly. This time last year, you know, this time last year, I was walking around like a fucking penguin. Do you know what I mean? It does. What doesn't kill you does make you stronger. So yeah,
100%. No, it's been great. It's been great to kind of hear actually discuss it and actually put it in perspective. So it's been great to hear. I think that's us going on an hour, so I think we'll leave it there. We'll leave it on that very positive high note. So, but like you said, Aaron, we thoroughly appreciate you coming on and kind of giving your perspective on a few things. It's been another good one. Thanks very much.
It's been fun.
So guys, thanks for tuning in once again, and we'll hopefully you enjoyed that and you stayed to the end.
Did you notice the hat, by the way?
Oh yeah, trust me, mate. I noticed it.
We've all seen that.
I did that. I thought there's a lot of division at the moment. England, Scotland, Wales.
You're sitting like this, like
this is Great Britain.
You see my hat, by the way. No, like I said, I was hoping you show up with a MAGA hat, because that's a good one. But
I'm just trying to share it. I haven't put gel in my hair, so I'll put a cap on. This is the first one I grabbed. I was like, oh yeah.
Mate, don't make out that wasn't intentional. Right. Right. Yeah, we'll leave it there. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.